Hello, it's Joyful Hermit. I've been in bed for about a week, flat, barely able to get up, so much pain. I have been trying to rest the whole time, and also I've been rereading St. Teresa of Avilas' Way of Perfection, and it's been very beneficial to be reminded of many aspects that she teaches. I'm right at the point of entering into the prayer of quiet that she teaches about. But it's been excellent advice regarding aspects in my current spiritual life as far as finding a parish and the difficulties I'm having in this new area of finding a parish. I had an unusual thing happen last Sunday. I still have this state during Mass. It starts at the beginning of the Scriptures. Very blissful unless there's something that is very temporal that intrudes. And usually I remember that then. I don't remember when the Mass is very spiritual. So at this current parish I've been in, the priest has somebody sit by me, which is wonderful. And I think people have gotten used to it. But at the point of the gospel, I was snapped out, immediately snapped out. That has never happened before in 5.5 years of this state happening. At other times, like in the homily, or if there was something not right going on, some kind of dissent or disobedience to Holy Mother Church as far as the homilist or what was being spoken or things like that, or even within the person or someone at the altar, I would become very aware. And I would beg God to let me out, but I wouldn't be allowed out. And an advisor had said, well, just suffer it for the church, suffer it as a crucifixion, because I couldn't move, couldn't open my eyes, couldn't speak anyway. And usually then during the consecration, everything would go back to being very peaceful again and blissful. But last Sunday at the gospel, I was immediately snapped out. My eyes opened, I could move. Always in this state at the end of Mass, even if it has been something not quite right going on in the Mass, that the transition would be very, very gradual. It would take a while for me to be able to first maybe move my fingers or my toes, or gradually be able to open my eyes, and not very wide, and then eventually be able to speak. It could take 5 minutes or longer. And it was a very gradual transition. But last Sunday, it was an immediately snapping out, because there was this hissing and grunting going on. And when I opened my eyes, I saw a woman all dressed up and realized, and she started speaking very shrill, loud, strident, ugly, demonic sounds and words. And I realized that they were dramatizing the gospel, and in an interpretation that, I would never have gained from reading that passage of the woman at the well. But it was so garish, and it was starting to make me quite ill. And I don't know if that was because there was no transition, and I was still highly sensitized, or I don't know if God had snapped me out so that I could totally move easily for me to leave. But I did leave because I was becoming so sickened by it. And I, asked some advice from some people, and there are other things in the parish that have been of dissent and aberrations from, how we are supposed to celebrate Mass, rubrics, etc. In small ways, I guess, but the next day's scripture was about how Jesus walked through their midst, and I thought, well, I guess I did. But I was very ill by it. And anyway, it was a strange thing to have happen And I really don't understand totally why God had that happen, but it's this week in much suffering and pain and being bedridden. That's the only thing that keeps coming back to me is that God snapped me out immediately so that I could leave. It happened so quickly that it wasn't even that interiorly I was asking God to release me, because I didn't know what was going on. It just, these horrible demonic sounds. And so anyway, it's still a fascinating thing that happens, but I've been grieving this week because I'm realizing, in addition to other things that have been mentioned, the priest mentioned to me not long ago that his favorite poet was Rumi, and other aspects. The book discussion, what they call it a Bible study, but it's really a book discussion. They're using a second book of a woman who's a dissenter to the Catholic Church, and while there's some good in it, she has her agenda in it also. So, and there have been many times where, like I say, the structure of the Mass has not been in obedience, even though, it's not an illicit Mass, but it's odd. St. Teresa this week, in the sections I was reading, addresses things like that, and not specifically with Mass, but just with other people, and she's a hardliner. Get away from bad companions or anyone who pulls you down or whatever. And I also started to question again, why isn't Jesus enough? Why do we have to do all these other things? Why wouldn't a Christian poet be a priest's favorite poet? Why do some of us seek outside of Jesus? And then reading Teresa of Avila, she's so in love with God. She's just so in love with him that it's inspiring me and sort of shaming me, which is good. I needed to be inspired again, re-inspired. So, anyway, I just continue praying about the situation with that parish. I had such high hopes, but I think Teresa is a very good guide to follow, and of course, many of my friends too, say nope, it's not going in a good direction. I can't be other than what I am, and I'm really not a dissenter. I'm just not. So, however, I think much good is going on there. Obviously, much good is going on. And, but I was snapped for some reason, just snapped right out of that state. So, we'll see what the next phases are. It's been a most difficult week in much darkness and trials, in addition to the extreme pain. It's just being crucified, and it was good to read Teresa reminding me of, how much we ought to love suffering and embrace suffering, because it's so small in comparison to what Jesus suffered. So I'm trying. I admit I haven't had the best attitude. At times I've felt very despairing at times. And I have so much work here to do, and I'm living in very difficult physical circumstances. So it adds to the pressure. And, of course, I don't know. I was up a little bit today. I went outside, did a slight bit of reading, trying to bend over to loosen my back, but it's just on fire again. So, all I can do is wait and trust in the Lord and stick with the tried and true. I feel that I shouldn't place my soul in the hands of situations that are nebulous, I guess you'd have to say. where more experimental type of worship is going on, even I guess even like having a workshop of mantras of Buddhists and Hindus. Why isn't Jesus enough? Why do we have to have a retreat where we're going to be doing Buddhist and Hindu mantras or chants? I'm not going to go to that, obviously, but it does cause me to wonder, but also in my own spiritual life, to always ask myself, is Jesus enough? Jesus ought to be enough for us. Ought to be enough. We shouldn't need other things. We shouldn't be following other paths. God blesses His real presence in you. Thank you. Pray for me and I'll pray for you.